Okay, up next, we have a young entrepreneur who exemplifies resilience. Bree Daniels is the co-founder of Bridger Bionics, a company dedicated to creating modifications for prosthetics for action sports. Based here in Bozeman, she advocates for access to athletics for people with limb loss and disabilities and spends plenty of her free times on the slopes. Please join me in welcoming Bree, sharing her speech, Stumped but Still Standing.
Thank you, everyone. Oh my goodness, I hope you had a lovely break. Before we dive in, I just kind of want to set the stage. This is about the fourth time I've given a version of this speech, and I recognize some ladies here from other events. So if you've heard it before, few things may have changed. You can notice them. I'll quiz you at the end. But I want to give you all full permission to feel whatever comes up. Laughter, tears, discomfort, or absolutely nothing at all. You do not owe me your inspiration, just your presence. So, let's get started. Do you remember what you did when you turned 18 and became a legal adult? Did you buy a lottery ticket? Did you get your first tattoo? Maybe you tried a cigarette. Well, the first legal act I made as an adult was signing my amputation papers. It's fair to say I did not start adulthood off on the right foot. I started on my left. And while this moment was truly devastating, luckily for me, it did not end my story, but was the beginning of a new journey. One that brought me to the top of mountains, into startups, and somehow here with you lovely women today. Hi, my name is Bree Daniels. I'm a 2-time childhood cancer survivor, an amputee, a sister, a daughter, a founder, and a dreamer of things that I never knew were possible. The hardest moments in my life have given me my clearest purpose and have brought joy, mobility, and community to the heart of what I do. But this is not just a story about surviving cancer. This is a story about discovering a new path and paving a new way forward when the old one is no longer an option. It's about using hardship to inform action. Because while we cannot control what happens to us in this life, we can always choose how we want to respond. So how did I go from lying in a hospital bed, not sure I was going to survive, to summiting mountains and being here with you today? The answer I keep coming back to is community. The communities I'm a part of have been the single most impactful force of good in my life. Every single meaningful opportunity I have had has stemmed from saying yes to joining a group of people and fostering those relationships. And you all choosing to be here at this summit today is an excellent example of building those connections that truly have the potential to change your life. My life story is proof of that. This was me as a kid, running around, chaotic, flailing arms like Jack Sparrow. I loved soccer, I lived for movement, and I believed even with that form, I would play soccer professionally one day. Then I noticed a small lump on my ankle. My primary care doctor thought it was nothing, just a ganglion cyst. We all get cysts, right? But the pain got worse, the lump grew, and eventually we saw a specialist. It wasn't nothing. I will never forget hearing the word cancer for the first time. I was 11 years old. The next day, I was rushed into an extensive 17-hour reconstructive surgery to remove the tumor and to save my leg. We all know how that one ends, but that was in the future. I had to lay with my leg above my heart for several weeks to allow it to heal. This was the first time I experienced a loss of mobility. Before getting cancer, my biggest fear was getting lice. Chemo took care of that one real quick. Months of radiation and treatment meant missing school, sleepovers, and sports, all the things I had taken for granted. That year was really, really hard. But with the support from my incredible family, community, and doctors, I pulled through. I relearned how to walk, and I went back to school determined to not fall behind. If I could face middle school girls bald and on crutches, I could do anything. After that, I crept back into normal life. Doctors had told me that I might never be able to run again, but I'm stubborn, so I joined cross country and track and even became a varsity athlete. It felt like I had outrun cancer, like I had reclaimed my identity as an athlete, and I was back on the path I had expected for myself, completely ignoring the fact that I had had a disability. Then came senior year of high school, and as everyone was applying to colleges and making life plans, life made plans for me. The day before my 18th birthday, I was diagnosed with cancer again. This time, bone cancer, caused by the radiation treatment that had saved me years before. The cure had become the cause. After they took my leg, which, by the way, they don't let you keep it, I asked. I underwent several more months of intense chemotherapy treatments to save my life. It was during this time that when everything was stripped away, I learned what was most important. Quality time spent with loved ones, appreciating a hot cup of coffee at home, feeling the sunshine on my face in the hospital courtyard. Basically, just being present with the people around me and appreciating the little things got me through the worst of it. Due to healing complications, I was unable to be fit for a prosthetic for almost a year after my amputation. I was in limbo without my limb. But I didn't want to wait to start living my life again, so I went on a cross-country road trip from Wisconsin to California on crutches. This trip taught me something powerful. I did not need everything ready to begin. Even without all the pieces, even without a leg, I could still get started and figure it out as I went. And I'm so glad I did, because on this road trip, I stopped in a town called Bozeman, Montana, and I discovered there was a school here, and I had some friends that went, and I knew that this is where I wanted to move when I got through my recovery. My next steps, once I could take them, became clear. When I got back from the trip, my leg was finally healed enough to be fit for my first prosthetic. All I had to do was put one foot in front of the other. Actually, this was one of the hardest things that I had to do. While I was thrilled to be moving again, I was also deeply disappointed. The leg felt foreign, it hurt, and I couldn't imagine being active with the equipment that I had been handed. For the first time, reality hit in. I had a disability, and for the rest of my life, I would rely on mobility technology to move about the world. That felt overwhelming. I had to let go of the path that I was originally on, the one with 2 meat feet, to embrace this new beginning, to begin to move forward. 6 months after relearning how to walk, I packed up my things and I moved to Bozeman, Montana. This was my fresh start, and I had no idea what kind of transformation it would spark. Nobody knew that I had just gotten this leg and just relearned how to walk. One of the first things my friends and I did was a 7-mile hike in Yellowstone. There was bison on the trail, and I was like, where did I just move? A friend quickly told me about Eagle Mount, a nonprofit that provides recreational opportunities for people with disabilities and young people impacted by cancer. I was a double whammy. I learned they had an adaptive ski program. I hadn't skied in years. I didn't know if I could anymore, but I knew I wanted to try, so I signed up anyway. And that's when the magic happened. I felt the wind on my face, the mountain underneath me, my body moving with power and control. Not a whole lot of control that first day, but I wasn't just skiing again, I was free again, and I was hooked. That first lesson turned into a season, and that season turned into 5 years of Eagle Mount. I became a professional ski instructor, received my adaptive certs, and I coach kids with disabilities and adults how to ski, snowboard, and fly down the mountain with the same confidence and joy I had rediscovered that day. And this did not just reconnect me to sport, it introduced me to something way more powerful: community. Eagle Mount has over 400 volunteers and 200 participants each season, and I saw firsthand what happens when people show up for each other, not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. I saw how simple acts like holding a sit ski or cheering on a first-time skier have true rippling effects that create momentum for healing. I saw again and again what I had lived, that when people move, they heal. And when we move together, that healing can amplify. But there was a problem. I was skiing on the jankiest setup out there. I was using a hard foam to pack out my boot, and it would break down or fly out mid-run. Multiple occasions, I had a friend skiing behind me going, "I have part of your leg." And this wasn't just my problem. This was industry standard. These are photos of clients who had duct-taped foam, wood blocks, whatever they could find, because there was no other option. So, in an afternoon, a friend and I decided to make something more durable. We used the MSU Makerspace to 3D print a custom insert for my ski boot, replicating my other leg. It worked remarkably well. It eliminated the wiggle, and I went from cautiously skiing groomers to dropping in from the ridge at Bridger Bowl. There was a few other things that led to that confidence, but you get the point. Other amputees soon started to ask, "Where can I get one?" And that's all we needed to hear. Bridger Bionics was born to build affordable, high prosthetic modifications for action sports, because gear shouldn't be the barrier to living life fully. My team had the privilege of competing in the MSU 100K venture competition in 2024, placing second, providing us funds to grow Bridger Bionics. We bought our first 3D printer, worked on the cover design, and built a foot for skiing. We did not have it figured out. We started anyway, and now we have a team of 5 amputees who test our products, give feedback, and co-create everything we make. We test, iterate, and build for the community because we are the community. And while I was having a blast on the mountain at Bridger Bowl University, I was also a business student at MSU. Through an entrepreneurship class, I was paired with a local startup called Trialware, a health tech company that builds wearable devices to communicate critical health information for pediatric oncology clinical trial participants. Now, that's a mouthful, but that hit home. I had lived that experience. For the first time, my story did not feel like a liability. It felt like a superpower. I was not just a patient anymore. I was contributing to help solve problems I personally understood. I serve as the engagement lead for Trialware now, and our team is led by a remarkable female founder and is primarily women. People who have taught me that empathy does not weaken innovation, but fuels it. Empathy allows us to hear patient stories, not as outliers, but as data with heartbeats. Each story is a blueprint for change. In March, I'll actually be heading to Chicago to go to Lurie Children's to visit patients and families who've tested Trialware. Learning and listening will be my main objective, ensuring patient-centric design. Embracing being a part of the disability community rather than trying to overcome it has been one of the greatest gifts of my life. I've met the coolest people, climbed Cotopaxi, learned a whitewater kayak, gotten my adaptive certs, and through it all, learned to live with fuller presence, radical self-acceptance, and deeper joy. And this is not just my story. This is about what happens when we make things accessible and inclusive from the start. 1 in 4 adults in the United States has a disability. That's not a niche. That's a quarter of the population. It is the only minority group that you can join at any time. Not a threat, just a fact. If we allow them to, these perspectives can create change that will help everybody in this world. The lessons I learned did not quite cost me an arm and a leg, just a leg. Let's hope I keep the arms. But what you've been through, especially the challenges that you have faced, might be the reason you are the exact person to solve something that others have overlooked. Not despite your story, but because of it. What you have been through can be very powerful. And there's never a perfect time to start. You can figure it out as you go. I'm just getting started, and I'm definitely still figuring all of it out. And you don't have to do anything alone. A friend told me about Eagle Mount, a professor connected me with Trialware, and I have an incredible team that has rallied behind the mission of Bridger Bionics. Every meaningful opportunity in my life has stemmed from community, connection, and leading with empathy and compassion. So wherever you are in your journey, remember, the path forward does not have to be clear. You just have to get started, lean into your connections, and keep going. I want to leave you with a quote from Zach Sobich. You do not have to find out you're dying to start living. Thank you.